Hello and welcome to BonkTable. I'm Mass and this is another Conquest battle report. I physically put my arms in the air for that one. So today I am kind of locking down my Adepticon list. So I got my ticket, I'm going to go to Adepticon, I've looked at everything and I'm like, oh yeah, I can make it. Cool, sweet, we're going to go. And I was kind of like, I need to play something, and it's like it's got to be fully painted. I'm like, what do I got painted up? And I'm like, there's a couple lists I want to play, but I don't have like just dudes painted. It's just like you gotta go paint like 7 stands of Gilded Legion, 9 stands of Household Guard, or 8 stands, I don't know. So painting a ton of infantry was really not up on the chopping block, and I'm like, okay, well, what else can I paint? I'm like, well, I could go back to Horse Lord and kind of round that off, because Sealed Temple are going to come out at the end of January. I was looking at it, I've done kind of some list creation on it, and I need to just paint up 6 Sealed Temple, and I'm like, okay, sweet, I can do that. I can get my Mounted Squires done, what I've been working on. So if you're in the BonkTable Discord, there's pictures of those guys. They're done by now, by the time this battle report comes out. And I think with the list adjustments that I made, I have to paint up one more Household Knight with a flag, because I didn't have any, and so I just went over, chopped the arm off of an unpainted Household Knight, and then glued on a flag arm. It was like, yeah, you work. So, you know, kind of figuring out like what needs to get painted and everything. So this list was from when I played Ben live on TTS. I played a Horse Lord list into his Old Dominion with a Fallen Divinity, and then we kind of chatted a bit, and I made some adjustments to that list off of the game we played, because it was like, I wasn't really getting as much work as I wanted out of the Death Star Household Knight block. And I'm like, okay, well, if I'm not getting work out of that, what can I do? And so hopefully the list is on the screen. We'll find out if editing mass mode does anything. But the thing I replaced is I dropped my Household Knights down to 2 MSUs, so 3 stands, both have banners. And we got a Prior Commander of Sealed Temple, we got 2 Order of the Sealed Temple, and then we got 2 5 stands of Ashen Dawn. Because the thing that was working really well in that list was the Ashen Dawn, and so I'm like, if I can protect the Ashen Dawn with the rest of the list and give favorable trades for the Ashen Dawn, I can win games. So at the top, Mounted Noble Lord, Supremacy Warlord. Dude's got a Flesh Cleaver because I had points left over, Deadly Blades, and Fiend Hunter. Sweet. He's a Weapon Master. Sweet. Give him the Cleave 1. He's got 2 units of Veterans Mounted Squires, Banner, Core Palatine. So they're class 3 on their 1 impact each. Oh my god. But they're class 4, and then if you get them on the side, you can get Opportunists. I find with Mounted Squires, because they're so fast at speed 9, that you really don't get flanks, because to do that early on, you overextend them, and I kind of use them as threatening roadblocks, so you kind of have to deal with them, and if you don't, you're kind of gonna lose some, like, archers or, like, light infantry to them, because they can kind of kill light infantry nicely at class 4 with all their attacks. I don't want to say diddle, but I kind of run around with them a lot, just kind of like baiting my opponent with them, and if my opponent has good shooting, you can kill Mounted Squires. They're defense 3, like, you can shoot these guys to death. Next, we got 2 MSUs of Household Knights, like I brought up before. I'm using these Household Knights very similar how I use them in the Hedgehog list, where I'm kind of covering my flanks, doing back-end scoring. They're a great medium to do that. Then we got the Priory of Sealed Temple Commander. Just mix up all the words. We got the Prior Commander of Sealed Temple. Dude's got Disorienting Strikes, had points left over. Disorienting Strikes is never bad. He's a Warlord, so he's got First Blessing, so it's going to get blessed with both my units of Order of Sealed Temple, and then a +1 attacker, Hardened 1 on my Ashen Dawn. Sweet. He's going to be hanging out with one of these, like, Order of Sealed Temple. Teams of Order of Sealed Temple. I like these guys a lot. Fluid Formation, probably the best or second best rule in the entire game. Blessed, probably the best or second best rule in the game. Both are really good. Having them both in a list is also really good. Potentially getting them on the same unit on one turn, even more good. So, you know, stacking your strengths. And that's kind of what's going on here. So, things I like about Order of Sealed Temple. Movement 8, really quick. Fluid Formation, you can maneuver and do some weird shit. I do that in this game and it works out really well. Clash 3 base, good on the impacts, and good on their attacks. I'm not really looking them to do a lot of heavy lifting. What I'm looking for them to do is kind of get in the way, kill chaff decently, maybe get into a fight with something about equally their power level, so another, like, decently high clash. I wouldn't say high clash, like clash 3 is kind of like good. I'd say good clash defense 3 thing. Like, their defense 4 with the shield, so they're a little more defensible, but you know, they're only 4 wounds, but resolve 4. So they got some stuff going for them, but you can plink off Seal Temple. Like, they die the same as Household Knights. But overall, I do like them just to do their sheer maneuverability, and they're higher than average clash of 2. Like, basically, once it gets to 3, I'm happy. Next, we got our 2 5 blocks of Ashen Dawn. What can I say, but these guys are really going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. I want to kind of use the rest of the horses. I have 4 mediums in this list that I want to keep the Ashen Dawn safe with, so I'm going to have them on the flanks. I'm going to get them in the way, so I want to have my Ashen Dawn hit opponents, or I want them to be my opponent to funnel in one thing at a time. I don't want to be bogged down with a bunch of stuff for Ashen Dawn, because Ashen Dawn can only kill one thing at a time. And the rest of the horses running around do that. 4 mediums, really nice for scoring. 2 lights is fine, gets my early game advantage in setting the line. And then my 2 heavies is fine as well. Overall, I like the list. I've been playing it a ton, and by a ton I mean, like, you've seen the battle reports where I played the old variant of this with 2 units of Crimson Tower. Having 4 mediums instead of 4 heavies just does a lot better. And that's really it I gotta say about it. If you want, I guess, better breakdowns, I'd say go check out the other lists because I go over them more, but I've played this list so many times and it's kind of just like, it's just another evolution on the list. And that's kind of what happens when you play something a lot, is like, okay, what's doing well, what's doing not so well, what do I need to change? And, you know, I keep changing stuff and messing around with it because as players evolve and the game evolves, things change, and if you keep playing the same thing over and over again, people are going to learn how to beat that. So you, as a person, you know, you just learn and develop your own stuff, and you bring more and more new stuff to the table. Same with all your opponents. So with that, I'm going to slow roll my rules, pause the video at any time. If there's a rule on here that I didn't, you know, talk about, you can read it. And there we go. Let's go check out my opponent's list. My opponent today is playing Spires. He's got the Brute and Shoot, Brute and Scoot list. He called it his Goon Squad, and it kind of makes sense because he's running a ton of medium Brutes and I believe 1 big unit of heavy, Incarnate Sentinels. So it's a good amount of wounds, high defense, high resolve. There's a bunch of chaff in there as well. A lot of mediums. I think he has 1 light, like 6 mediums and 1 heavy or something like that. It's a lot of mediums, I just recall from that. So let's go and work our way through this. Lineage Highborn, he's the Warlord, he's got Legacy of the Ark, so he gets 3, mutations. Ferromantic Overdrive is a draw event, so that allows a unit within 6 inches of the character to march, clash, maybe volley, or charge, I don't know, it's something like that. Basically, you draw the character, you declare it, and you get it once per game. Lineage Highborn is going to be sitting on a unit of Incarnate Sentinels. There's 5 stands, Clash 3, Cleave 2, 6 wounds, 5 attack, movement 7. Really solid, really good. This is a mean thing to do. It can take a hit and can deal out a hit. But with the Lineage Highborn in that, he is also going to be giving them Aura of Death 4. I talked with my opponent after the game, I believe the next day, and he was like messaging me, and he's like, oh, I totally forgot about my Aura of Death. I'm like, you know what, that would have killed like a couple more Ashen Dawn. So it's just, you know, kind of like review your rules and stuff as you're playing the game, like when you activate the card. Just have a quick read through if you're changing stuff around and want to look at stuff, and make sure you don't forget your rules. What else we got here? Command Pheromones gives them +1 resolve, getting up to 5. We already talked about Ferromantic Overdrive, but his whole stick with this is that this is his heavy hitter unit with the Lineage Highborn, and they're going to come in and punch. We got 2 units of Avatar with Superior Creations, getting with the Clash 3, 4 wounds, Resolve 4, Defense 4, Evasion 2. This is a really good stat layout. It's especially at Clash 3, Movement 7, Cleave 1, Impact 2. Like, this is a really good unit. These guys will punch. If they charge into stuff, they can kind of punch up a little bit. They are good into other mediums. That Cleave 1, they're Clash 3 for attacks. They're pretty defensible at Resolve 4 and Defense 4. And Evasion 2 is also really sweet. I didn't realize that they're Support 2 as well, so that's also really good. But he's just running 2 MSUs. I really like this unit. They can run around and get in the way, and they can kill Sealed Temple and Household Knights if they ever get into them. So that's a really good unit right there. Next, we got the High Clone Executive Producer. He's got Bionic Hive, Bearing Parasites, Infiltrator variant. He got Gun. So this basically just gives him Barrage 8, Range 14, Rapid Fire Deadly Shot, Armor Pierce 1. So something that I learned, we played this wrong in the game, but Rapid Volley only applies to the hit roll. So if you roll a 1 on the hit roll, it generates another hit. But it's basically there to prevent you from like infinitely stacking like a bunch of 1s or something. Like the hits don't generate more hits. Similar to, what is it? Vita the Redbringer from Menards. However, those shots still get Deadly Shot and Armor Piercing 1. I thought it was you just don't get anything special, kind of like Trample, where those hits don't use any of the other special rules. That's my bad, they do. So just watch out for that and don't make the mistake, and that's what I'm telling you guys, give you that information. Then we got Disperse, Loose Formation. He's going in that Vanguard Clone Infiltrator unit. Fuck these things. Volley 2, Barrage 5, Rapid Volley. They're basically getting a ton of shots, especially if they can take aim. They have Fluid Formation, so they can spin around. They can do the scoot and shoot. You can kind of reform them to get into a better position. Like, there's a bunch of stuff you can do with them, which is really nice. Vanguard is also really sweet on them, just getting up the table faster. So, High Clone Executor, really good shooting. He's Volley 3 as well. Like, this combo is just really mean, and I hate it. And getting to it can kind of be a problem every once in a while. Next, we got, Bound Clones. They're just there to, be in the way, score zones. Vanguard Clones with Superior Creations. They can kind of punch up at Clash 3. They got 6 attacks, Defense 2 with a shield, Evasion 2, Resolve 3. Like, they're actually pretty defensible. That Evasion's really sweet, what I kind of like. They're 4 wounds each, so when they do start taking wounds, it doesn't take long for like chip damage to get into them. But they do have some defensive tech, and they can kind of get in there and play around with other mediums that are just kind of there to be chaff. They'll usually win that fight. So I do like Vanguard Clones. Another unit of Brutes. They have Superior Creations as well, so that gets them to Clash 3. Brute Drone's pretty good. As for a medium, 5 wounds, Resolve 4, and you gotta take 2 wounds to take a Resolve, round it up. So if you only take 1, you still take a wound, but if you take 2, you only take 1. Defense 3 is pretty good defense on them. They're kind of an annoying unit, because you don't want to like put in your heavy hitter to kill them, but you kind of need something heavy enough that can hit to kill them, because they have a bunch of weird inbuilt survivabilities. And my opponent is running another unit with the Ferromancer. They're not Superior Creations, but there's 3 of them as well. I'll get on the Ferromancer. He's got the Avatar projection, so he turns into a Brute. That gives him like Cleave 1, some impact. He is Clash 3. He's got Ferromantic Gland Burst. No, that's just a thing. I think it's Ferromantic. It's just another special role. I'm not exactly sure what that does. Let me just check it. Okay, there's a lot of... gets +1 to March or Resolve. Sweet. Really good. It's actually really good. Making your guys more speedy. Super good. What else can I talk about him? Attraction Pheromones just guarantees he has flank. Sweet. Onslaught Drones, Burnout, Linebreaker. Clash 2, not the greatest. Defense 2. No Evasion, Resolve 2. Yeah, Onslaught Drones are kind of... They're 120 points for a medium, what's really nice. What's Bound... Is it Bound Clones? Yeah, Bound Clones 120 as well. Yeah, take your pick. I don't know. There's a bit of me that wants to say, like, Bound Clones are a little better because they have Evasion 1 and Defense 2 with a shield, so they're more defensible, while Onslaught Drones are kind of like... They're supposed to be the offensive version of that, but I don't... At Clash 2... burnout for that speed buff. I just want to see. +1 clash and 2 march to K3, so you get it to clash 3. Yeah, you could kind of do it. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of onslaught drones, just because it seems like they either die really quickly because they're defense 2, they die because they burned out and decayed themselves. There might be a time where you want to burn out into somebody and run up and like kill off a stand or two and then like control a zone, so there's that. It's, I don't know, they're 120 points, they're in a medium, so it's kind of fine, but I don't know. I don't know what the Ferromancer's Warband, if you can even take bound clones, and if not, then I guess you are taking onslaughts. Then get the brute drones I talked about, and that's kind of his list. It's, how many mediums? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mediums. Yeah, 1, 2, I'm just counting this, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, 7 mediums, 1 light, 1 heavy. A lot of mediums, so he's gonna be getting something in on turn 2. And by something, I mean hopefully like 2 or 3 regiments. He gets his auto in and the Ferromancer's Attraction Pheromones, so he's gonna for sure have 2. Then he has 5 dice he gets to roll. Probably get 1 or 2 of those. So yeah, having a bunch of mediums on is gonna be really good. He's not gonna get everything. Incarnates are for sure coming on turn 3. Vanguard Cone Infiltrators are for sure coming on turn 1. So he's probably going to have stuff come on turn 4 for mediums, but he'll have enough things on turn 3 to be force projecting, and then he can like secure himself up with the other mediums that don't make it. The 2 units of Avatar, Brutes and Sentinels, make a really mean kind of meat wall I gotta grind through. And if I get the drop-off Incarnate Sentinels with Ashen Dawn, I can win that fight. Avatara hitting Ashen Dawn, I'll win that fight, but I don't want to get bogged down and pushed out of scoring, so I kind of have to be quick. But I do have the horses, but I do have to be careful because I don't want to just lose horses randomly. I kind of want him to overextend and drag into me where I can then hit him. And if he's not, then kind of bring the mediums up to set a line to let him grind into that while I can hold the zones and score, and then get my Ashen Dawn in there to start picking stuff off. That's kind of my hope on how this game goes, but I will slow roll my opponent's rules so you can just pause the video, read about something that I didn't cover all the way, and we'll get on to the scenario. Alright, let's go check out the scenario. So today we're playing melee. This is the kill point scenario, so you get 2 points for every regiment, 2 points for every character, and 2 points for every warlord. There is no only one warlord clause, so because I'm running 2 warlords, my opponent will get 2 points for each warlord. Really good for them. Next, the scenario itself, you get 3 points for the 9ers, 2 points for the 6ers, and you get additional 2 if you're seizing 2 or more. With this scenario, you kind of want to pick a side, so let's say this side, and you want to lock down 2 zones. And then you really want to kind of fight over and secure another one of these 3ers, and just leave your opponent with 1 zone. Yeah, it's a lot, but scoring 3 objectives is 12 points, like so, and your opponent's never going to make that back and just killing your stuff. So if you can kind of lock down that and score it for, I want to say 2, maybe 3 turns, kind of like 2 for sure. You can kind of push far enough ahead that once you get into that meat grinder of fighting it out, like over here and over here, you'll just be so far ahead that you guys trading regiments is just going to be in your favor. And that's kind of what I found how to win this scenario. You'll see me do the scenario cascade, just do it in purple, where I run a regiment here, score this, and then I move that regiment over here, scoring that the second turn, while on the second turn, this would be like turn 3, I would run another regiment to score this again, so that I have both these being scored. So I'd have the 6-incher being scored on turn 6, and then the guy in the 6-incher would move to the 9-incher, and then the new regiment would run into the 6-incher, so on turn 3 I'd be scoring both of them and getting my double points. On the right there, I'm just, running a guy up and just kind of like, hold! Just hold that as long as possible. You kind of develop, I want to say, like a weaker flank and a stronger flank. In this scenario, I deployed a bunch of like mounted squires and stuff onto these orange, like onto the right side of the table here. And my opponent kind of counter deployed maybe a little too heavy over there. Like he just threw in more regiments than he needed to. And then I kind of snuck over to the left side and just, took over some stuff, scored it, kind of put some pressure on my opponent that way. And then it split him so that he didn't have enough stuff on the left side to really hold me back, and I could kind of just take it all. And on the right side, he got into a meat grinder with horses, and I was just fine sitting there kind of going back and forth because I already had those 2 turns of scoring. I'll kind of talk more about the game itself as we get into the end game, but let's go to the table and I'll show you the terrain. Here's the terrain. You can see all the red zones right there. So big things on this table that mattered. We got obscuring. I'll just do the O's. And broken. So broken terrain, let's talk about that. It is, what can I say about it? I can't draw and talk. There we go. So broken terrain. If you charge through it, you roll a d6, and on a 6 you take a wound. Cavalry take 2 wounds. We were talking about putting hindering on it, but then we realized that a majority of our lists are either mediums and heavies, and we were like, nah, we don't want to deal with that because it's just super annoying, and it's just like, this is a lot of obscuring, hindering terrain. Like, there isn't really anything else. Like, these are the ones that are going to affect us. So we kind of just said, yeah, let's just make it broken, so if we charge through, we could take wounds. That's fine. And we're like, yep, we both agreed to that, and it was fine. We got the -1 clash water over here. That thing kind of comes up and not in my favor. I'm not going to say I set a unit of household knights in that water, but I set a unit of household knights in that water, and I have to fight in it, and I don't like it. We have a size 4 garrison right here. It's, like size 2, so you can't see over it, but you can put some people there. Really blocks off these 2 zones right here from getting at each other, and also splits the table down the middle. So we have to kind of really decide, and then once you crush a flank, you can like sweep in this way, or if your opponent wins this flank, and sweep in that way and get into the back line, what's really good. And that's kind of what's going on there. Another weird one is the size 2 and the size 7. I don't know how fucking tall this thing is. We didn't even really bring this up, but the massive obstructions on the side of the table, those are supposed to be 9 inches from the side. I didn't build the tables here. They were just thrown in, and I'm like, yay. That's not legal, but also, okay, sure. I'm just going to take this table at face value and play on it. So yeah, that's really the table and kind of what's going on here. I've already kind of explained the scenario. Yeah, let's go on to turn 1, and we'll just get this game rolling. Alright, turn 1. I get a unit of Mounted Squires. My opponent gets a unit of Vanguard Clone Infiltrators. My opponent wins the roll-off, draws character. I draw Mounted Squires. I run them up 19. I basically wheel them so that edge right here is 19 inches up the table. My opponent triple marches just straight up. He is, I think he's just within 14, so right there is 14 inches, so he can shoot me with all his stands. And I'm like, oh, that doesn't look too fun. In retrospect, I probably didn't need to run my entire 19. I could have held back more. And as you'll see next turn, it would have saved Mountain Squire lives. But if I did win the roll-off, I can probably get the charge in. So here, I'll just do it in red. Between here and here, I think it was a 12. So I needed a 3 with a reroll. It's actually pretty good, and I would have probably taken it. And then I could have, charged in, clashed, done some impacts, maybe kill half the unit. And then if they die, I've kind of neutered that unit, and I can just get more stuff over there. So that was really what I was hoping for. But you'll see in turn 2, that's not how that goes. So let's go to turn 2. Here's turn 2. Things that get on the table. My Crimson Tower are my Sealed Temple proxies, because those don't come in until the end of the month. And my opponent he's got 1 unit of Brutes, and his Ferromancer with Brutes are back there as well. So he didn't roll any other successes for any of his other mediums. He just got his 2 auto-ins. And I got my auto in, my light, and my another medium. And so I'm like, okay, sweet. Doing well here. And now I'm already looking at how to score. So first thing I recognize is that I can get into this zone right here very easily with Sealed Temple. So, you know, my last move, I forget like how it kind of goes, but the first move is my opponent wins the roll-off, shoots into the Mounted Squire, as you can see, who's back here with 1 wound. Oh, I'm covering it. There we go. And I'm like, yay, that's really sweet. And then I believe he just does, he shoots and then backs off. He moves back like 3 inches. I'm like, okay, sweet. So my turn goes, I'm like Mounted Squires. I look at it and I move that Mounted Squire with 1 wound. I just double march him backwards because I'm like, you're not dead yet. I'm still holding those points because my opponent hasn't killed off a regiment. You know, just back up, we'll keep you alive. My opponent then, you know, does a character. I do a character. He brings on some brutes. I bring up some more Mounted Squires who just run up the table. I don't know, like... Ooh, that is a terrible line. Do this again. I'm like 14.4 away, so... There we go. 14.4 away, so he's not going to be able to, like, just take aim and shoot me. So I'm kind of like, yeah. Yay. I'm just really sad with that one Mounted Squire. It's like, I hate VCI. They're so annoying. He's just run up his brutes like that. He just runs 1-5, or sorry, yeah, I think he runs up 10 and then runs the other unit behind. He's kind of worried about Sealed Temple just because of how maneuverable they are. But this unit just kind of runs up. It's 17 because of the banner, rotates, getting ready to threaten that zone, threat protection, like so. So if he ever comes in that zone, I have something there to like get him, but he's, you know, he's being wary about it and doesn't really want to come into the horse trap. So that just shoves me over here where I just run up and fluid reform into the zone. I'm looking at getting these guys next turn into this zone, but I have that zone scored, so I'm getting 2 points. My opponent's not getting anything, and I'm kind of thinking Sealed Temple next turn, get into this zone. Those Sealed Temple on the left get into that other zone. Ash and Dawn are going to be coming onto the table. They're going to run up and get into the zone over here. That's going to get me a ton of points. If I can keep my opponent out of that zone on the right side, I'll be in a really good spot to kind of score a bunch and take a huge lead early on in the game. Let's go to turn 3 and see how that goes. Here's turn 3. I get everything else onto the table, both units of Ash and Dawn, both units of Household Knights. My opponent gets Incarnate Sentinels, Bound Clones, Avatara, so he's still missing... I believe this is his Vanguard clones, Onslaught drones, and another unit of Avatara, so he still has stuff coming on. But I'm okay with that because I'm already looking at projecting threat right here and setting myself up for success. I realized early on that the right side is going to be kind of a problem. And so generate room. I'll use orange. I generate room here, and then I realize I need something to get into the small zone, and I kind of want Household Knights to control that bigger zone, as you can see on the left. So I generate room over here, and that's kind of where I'm like thinking of putting my Ash and Dawn. Right off the top of my head, right at the top of the turn, that's where I'm gonna go. So things would happen. Pretty sure my opponent wins the roll-off. He's looking at my Sealed Temple and my crossbows. He realizes that if he sits still and shoots at either Mounted Squires or Sealed Temple, I'm going to come and get him. I have the range of the maneuver to do so, so he wins the roll-off and he just backs up 6 inches. I'm like, okay, sweet. You are not threatening that. He has a threat projection to about here, and I'm just going to stay out of it. So he can only shoot that far, so if he's going to come at me, he's got to move, lose his take aim, and I'll be fine. That gets into my first card, Sealed Temple. They do a reform, run in, they just go from here to here. But I am doing the scoring cascade and scoring the zone. Sweet, doing really well. My opponent, I'm not exactly sure what he does. I think he starts like running up some chaff and stuff, trying to, get in the way, look at things. I get both my Sealed Temple into the zone. Just march a bit, staying outside of the shooting range, do a reform to threat project again. Mounted Squires get into the same distance. They're going to threat project because I'm trying to get over there. That one Mounted Squire in the back, he just rallies and he just kind of dirtles on up, getting out of the way of the Household Knight, so I want to sit in that zone and control it. My opponent gets aggressive here to try and bait me some Brute Drones. I'm like, okay, not bad, not bad. I run at some point Ashen Dawn up the table, getting into the proper spots. This unit of Ashen Dawn is in the zone over here. Just touches it, scores it. My opponent doesn't have anything on the right side, so I'm scoring that with Sealed Temple. There's my 3 zones, that's 12 points. Even though I'm losing Mounted Squires, he still has to fight the defense 3 with shield, Horse Flesh, and he hasn't got there yet. And I can kind of sit there and kind of stall him out with those guys, waiting to set up my Ashen Dawn. The next thing my opponent does is he, runs up some Avatara. He doesn't have a banner, so he can't get into the zone because he's 14 inches away, not 15. I have a banner on Ashen Dawn, so I can touch it. I think he should have double march this Ferromancer and Brute unit to get into the zone more. Just circle it over here. Like, he should have had those guys go first and get in there. Because he is still safe from me. He has that other Brute unit up front. He didn't go all the way. I think he tried to do a charge, but he needed like a 5 and he rolled a 2 twice, so he just kind of like diddle on up with these guys. I'll just do them in purple. So maybe that's why he didn't have the room generated, but he could have got into that zone with the other unit of Brutes and then had the Avatar run up. Avatara, I don't mind their position, but I think he needed more on this side of the table. As you can see, like, Incarnate Sentinel's running up the table like so to counter my Ashen Dawn, because I've just double placed both my Ashen Dawn. He's getting a really scrunched on the right side. I'm controlling that zone, so I'm really fine letting him come to me. And he's seeing that I'm weaker on the left side because I just have left stuff. But I still have a unit of Ashen Dawn there to run around and kind of score it all. Because right now, Sealed Temple are up. And my big worry after that position with the Incarnate Sentinels, that Incarnate Sentinels are just going to like march, charge into the side of the Sealed Temple, kill off my character. I'm not going to get my Supremacy. So one of the first things I think of doing is getting those Sealed Temple out of there. And if the Incarnates do go that way, Ashen Dawn can follow up. But I still want to keep those guys safe. Yeah. That's really it. House of Knights just run up the table. They're not super worried right now. They just need to stand in the zone each, and then they can just set up defensive formations. And by defensive formations, I mean zone my opponent out of the zone so they can't score. So hopefully at some point the Ashen Dawn get over here and just kind of like get on that edge and prevent people from coming in. Sorry, not Ashen Dawn, Household Knights. They're Household Knights, I don't care. You're just men-at-arms and horses at this point. But that's really it. I've set myself up in a really good spot to control these zones, and it's kind of forcing my opponent into me. He's much slower because the majority of his list is coming on turn 2 and 3 because there are a lot of mediums, and turn 4. Like, he's still missing 3 things, but he's not super far up the table because he's scared of how fast the horses are, and he can't just like run one thing forward to try and get in the way because I'm just gonna take it just due to my sheer speed. Like, someone's gonna come up and stab it to death. So let's get on to turn 4 where the lines clash. Here's turn 4. I believe I win the roll-off. I reform my Sealed Temple into a square. And then I just back up 8 inches. And I'm really fine with that. I give up that zone, but I still have Household Knights on the left to go. On the right, my opponent shoots with VCI into more Mounted Squires. I'm like, ugh. Mounted Squires kind of just run around and threat project. As you can see right there, they just rally themselves and like march up and just kind of get in the way, zoning out my opponent like so. My opponent counters with Vanguard clones and Avatara. So currently there is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regiments versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's probably an overcommitment because his VCI can just kill off Mounted Squires, and it's 3 versus 6. So if I can hold onto that zone, I'm in a really good spot. Next unit, Sealed Temple, goes from here, charges into Brutes, gets them down to 1 guy, breaks them, that's fine. I think I take 2 wounds from the train, whatever. Ash and Dawn, they just kind of get into a better spot. I should probably have gotten them into the zone. I like just up and shimmy over, like start doing that movement. Household Knights reformed into a square to get around Mountain Squires at one point, and I just kind of have them get into the zone. It's not the super best, but I need someone to get in there, and they were kind of the guys. I kind of wanted them 4 wide, but I can't because I'm just going to circle in green. There's that piece of train back there, so I had to watch out for that, and it's kind of just, it is what it is. I'm not super worried. My opponent, he's super stuck on himself right here. He's got a brute with fighting Seal Temple. He's not in the zone. Has 2 other regiments stuck behind. I'm fine with that fight just taking forever. I'm controlling everything else. I'm going to be really fine. If he ever kills Seal Temple, he's got to fight Ash and Dawn. If Seal Temple ever kill that brute, they can go into more brutes. I'm really happy with that matchup. Good on me. My opponent is scoring the zone, but that's okay. I'm scoring 1, 2, and 3. My Ash and Dawn get a little bit more on the zone, so there's like 2 stands. I don't move very far forward because I'm trying to bait in these Incarnate Sentinels. And I have Household Knights who... Sorry, I'll get back onto these Incarnate Sentinels. I'm waiting for my opponent to like make a move with those Incarnate Sentinels. Because next turn I'm like, well, I'll declare my Supremacy and then I'll have my Sealed Temple kind of run into here and get in the way. And then I'll attack those Incarnate Sentinels. Are going to have to deal with that. So he's like 14 and a little bit away from me. So it's pretty far for trying to like, just like, he can't just charge me in Clash. So he's got to march, charge me. He does have his draw event, but if I see that coming, I'll be able to get something in the way because I'll just set my stack to be Sealed Temple first. And it'll be fine. He moves his Bound Clones up. I charge in with Household Knights. Do a wound with impacts. I just march charge. Get on the zone. I'm scoring it. He's got 2 stands to my 3. Sweet. And yeah. He's bringing, I believe these are Onslaught drones. He's bringing those guys up to help out, but the Incarnate Sentinels are kind of in a game of chicken with the Ash and Dawn. I have more things that can really affect it and get in the way. I'm controlling both the zones. A lot of things are in my favor, and I'm putting the pressure on my opponent. So this gets me another 12 points. Nothing's died yet. Things are weak, but nothing's died. What's really funny about Melee, the right side is just like an entire traffic jam of nonsense. The left side is just a chicken off. So turn 5 is where we're going to find out if does the traffic jam clear up? Who wins the chicken off? So let's go to turn 5. Here's turn 5. My opponent wins the roll off and does a march charge with the Incarnate Sentinels. From here into here. And I'm like, okay, I take my impacts. Sweet. I draw my next card, Sealed Temple. I Fluid Reform to get parallel with the Ash and Dawn. Side charge in. Because of the rectangle, I'm just drawing the rectangle, there we go. This guy in green counts as attacking, so I do my impacts on the side, I do my clashes on the side, I kill a stand, and the stand, there's another stand back here who has like 1 wound left. I'll just do a 1. I'm like, okay, cool. My opponent then draws his character, does the draw event for the clash, clashes me because it's not an Inspire clash, they're just at their clash 3, does a bunch of damage, I roll blessed, I lose 1 stand, and I'm like, okay. My Ash and Dawn were at the bottom of the stack because I thought my opponent would be doing that much later in the game, but I know where they are now, and at the end of the game I draw my Ash and Dawn and they Inspire clash back. My opponent forgot to tell me that he had Aura Death, so I didn't take any Aura Death. I should have. Probably, that would have been, I'll just do it in orange. 1, 2, 3, 4. 20 Aura of Deaths into Ash and Dawn. That's for sure enough to like lose a guy or 2. So that would have really changed this outcome. But Ash and Dawn, Inspire Clash, kills off 2 more stands, breaks the regiment. He only has 1 stand in the zone. I have 2 stands in the zone. I'm scoring this. Sweet. That was the big play. Happened early and then kind of ended. Oh, sweet. Undo. So then we get back into the rest of the game. Mounted Squire, just, you know, one of them charges into this VCI. One of them charges into this unit of brute drones. I couldn't get between the brute drone and the sealed temple because that space is too small. VCI, clash, kill, shoot, kill. Sweet. I'm like, yeah, they only have 3 wounds left each. Like, I'm fine with that. Vanguard clone charge into here. I'm like, yay, I'm stuck in the water. Household Knights eventually go. I do a combat reform to stretch out my entire regiment. And then I do a clash. I made my resolves. I didn't take any damage. And then I just stab at him. He loses a stand. One of his stands is in the water and one of them isn't. So now he's going to be affected by the water. It's really funny. I'm already affected by the water. So we're just kind of going back and forth. But he runs his lineage, or not his lineage, his avatar into the zone. That gives him enough stance to lock this down and score it. Really good on his part. Also setting himself up to maybe get a charge into the side of the sealed temple or get into the Household Knights. It's kind of hard because he's really stuck behind those Vanguard clones, but if I ever kill the Vanguard clones, he has avatar to follow up and kill Household Knights, probably in his favor. He's scoring that zone, so he's in a really good spot there. So I'm like, I've lost the right side zone. It's going to be a grind. We can find out how that goes. This zone is still locked down by Avatara. They kind of just shuffle with the Ferromancer and Brutes. They just shuffle. There's like 1 wound on them. Just circle it in red because the Mounted Squire did a little bit of damage. Nothing too crazy. Also over here, a little bit of damage. Nothing too crazy. Sealed Temple, fight back. This Brute lives on 1 health. Sweet. Brute fights back. Kill Sealed Temple. I'll do that in blue. Kill Sealed Temple. I'm like, sweet. Other unit of Ashen Dawn, they just kind of rotate, you know, threat projection, looking at the rest of the table. Once those Sealed Temple are free, I can get Ashen Dawn in there. I was really hoping the Sealed Temple without an Inspire would kill that 1 Brute. No, that's not happening. If they did, I would have backed up and reformed to allow space for the Ashen Dawn. That was my plan, but now they're down to 1 health, and I'm kind of like, well, shit. You know, maybe I should have confirmed the kill, but I also kind of didn't want to get charged by another unit of Brutes, and it's, you know, it's just that back and forth. On the left side, Household Knights fight Bound Clones. I kill off another stand, so there's 1 left. They do some attacks back. I make all my saves. I'm sitting there scoring that. So my opponent is controlling 2 zones. I'm controlling 2 zones. We both get 7 points, so we're racking it up. I haven't killed anything. My opponent's killed 2 Mounted Squires, so he's going to get 4 points off of that. So he's starting, you know, he's starting to climb up that ladder, but I'm like, well, the lines are finally clashed. Ashen Dawn are now going to fight Incarnates. If I can kill Incarnates, that's 6 points right there. And then I can clean up the left side and sit on those zones. And then I can eventually, I'll do it in orange here, you know, swing some horses around into the backfield. That's the plan. So turn, what is this? I don't know if this is turn 5. Is this turn 5? Yes, this is turn 5. Let's go to turn 6. I believe next turn is turn 6. I don't know. Editing mass, we'll figure it out. And we'll find out if those Incarnate Sentinels die. So let's go have a look at it. Alright, so here's turn 6. I win the roll-off. My opponent had his Incarnate Sentinels right here. I declare my supremacy. Ooh, that is a bad line. So I give +1 attack to those guys, and I give Harden 1 to these guys. All the other Sealed Temple get blessed. What is it? Ashen Dawn. They bless their attack roll, because I'm like, well, the only thing that's coming into Ashen Dawn this turn are Incarnate Sentinels. I do a bunch of damage, kill them all. Sweet, and then I just move up 7, locking down that zone over there. Cool. My opponent basically draws his Incarnate Sentinels, goes on to the next card. I'm not 100% sure what that was. I think, no, it wasn't Brutes. For some reason, I feel like it was the Brutes over here. They, or might have been the Ferromancer who did some Ferromancies to dish out some buffs. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm just kind of like, yeah, whatever. I believe this brute over here fights my Sealed Temple. I'm like, okay. My Sealed Temple bless their attack rolls, kill off that brute, back up. You know, they just back up and then do a reform. My opponent, I'm just gonna draw, these are the Avatara. Just put A. And then these are those other brutes. Put B. This unit's dead. At some point he charges the Avatara over his brutes. This is now freed up over here, so he gets Avatara into the Ashen Dawn. He does a bunch of attacks. I bless off the attacks because it's just, he's cleave 1, I'm harden 1. I don't care about it for this turn. Ashen Dawn eventually go kill off the Avatara. That frees up these brutes who are like, we need to kill Ashen Dawn. They're finally free and ready to go. I'm like, yes, they are. They are going to be starting to hit stuff. He charges into the Ashen Dawn. And he does, I don't know, like this Ashen Dawn, I believe right over here is at 1 life left. I rolled a bunch of really good saves, and we're good. So, next turn, those brutes are going to die to Ashen Dawn. Vanguard Clone Infiltrators, they just take aim and shoot at the Sealed Temple. Sealed Temple are down to like 1 wound and broken, and I'm like, oh. I was actually, before he did that, I had 2 stands on this zone. So I had the one guy over there, and then I had these 3 stands. His Avatar just kind of like moved around a little to get into a better spot. And these VCI and Household Knights were kind of fighting it off. So these Household Knights and VCI were kind of fighting. And, he does some damage, kills off one of the Household Knights. He's got a Household Knight over there that's weak. Household Knight's going to fight back, killing off VCI. VCI are broken. I got 3 stands in there. He's got 4. I could have stalled him out and like made sure he doesn't score, but now I can't. Actually, I don't think he can't score. Would I have been able to score? No, we're currently tied because this guy doesn't count as scoring. Those 3 do. Those guys are all in. So no one's scoring that right zone. It's kind of just, it's still a mess over there, but no one's scoring it. On the left, Household Knights, Spire Clash kill, Sealed Temple, reform, make a big line. They kind of line up like so. My opponent moved up his Onslaught drones. I charge in, do impacts, do clash, kill them all off, and at this point my opponent calls it. I'm controlling another 2 zones. I've killed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Sorry, how many? Avatar brutes, there's 2. It's 3 for the Warlord and their regiment. So it's 5, 6, 7. So I've killed 7 cards to his 2, on top of locking down both zones. My next turn, I'm probably going to be bringing Household Knights around, or not Household Knights, Ashen Dawn around. Sealed Temple can just kind of go back and run into the zone to score it, and they, those guys can sit on the left. Ashen Dawn coming around is just going to pancake the rest of his regiments, and he's just going to get wrapped up and killed. I'm going to control the zones. And so we kind of call it at that point, because we're like, yeah, he's kind of out of gas at this point, and I'm kind of taking it away. So let's go to the end score, we'll wrap it up, and then I'll kind of talk about it. I am at 36, plus, what I say, 7, so 14. 36 plus 14, 40, 50. Is that 50 points? Yeah, 50 points. Okay, so I'm at 50 points. My opponent is currently at 11, plus their force, they're at 15. And we ended on turn 6. So quite a runaway there on points. Early on, my opponent was in a strong position to kind of keep me out, but he wasn't fast enough to get into the zones. His VCI were doing a lot of work. Like, he can do work with VCI. Like, VCI are a really strong unit, and there was a turn where he backed up. I think he should have backed up, or sorry, not backed up. He should have backed up still, but he should have shot. Like, maybe he should have fluid reformed a little to, like, get some stands in, shoot, and kill off some Mountain Squires earlier on, and then backed up and just kind of, like, keep doing that level of work. They always want to be shooting, but kind of get them in there and keep them safe. The problem that was kind of happening was that once his brutes started getting in the way of my cavalry, they're all size 2, and the VCI couldn't shoot over them, so it was like, so there was a lot less shots they were making after a while, just a blocking line of sight. His Incarnate Sentinels were left by themselves. We talked about the interaction with the draw event, and what it kind of came down to was that he should have used the draw event from the character first to get a march, and then he should have he should have charged and then clashed me, so then he would have had the inspire, get some more extra hits. Instead, he decided to march, charge, and then use the draw event for a clash. So it's just little things like that. There was a point where I was trying to figure out if I could use the Prior Commander of Steel Temple to duel out the Avatar leader. The answer is no. I believe that thing is 6 wounds, and I am even with Quicksilver Strike, I didn't really want to fight her. Who else? He kind of needed some more chaff. Like, his brutes are doing well, and they can kind of act like chaff, but they're kind of the workhorses of his army. Like, VCI does work, Incarnate Sentinels do work, Avatar do work, and the brutes can kind of do they can kill some mediums, like some chaff infantry. His chaff ended up in fights with my chaff, while I think he wanted to get his heavy hitters into my chaff, and he wants to get his chaff into my heavy hitters to lock him down. Because I was kind of going to win the chicken fight eventually, just because I had more freedom of movement on the left side, and then once I killed off the Incarnate Sentinels, I was just free to just wrap that side up and move over, what I eventually did. Him charging into me first was a smart move, because that denies the wedge from the Ashen Dawn. When the Ashen Dawn were being charged by, I guess, multiple things on the right side, it was like one at a time. While you kind of want to dogpile them, you want to get multiple things on them at once. And then also in the flank, it does help. What else do I want to say? His Avatara, he probably could have dedicated an Avatara to the left side of the table to help out. That would have been really strong, because my Hellstone Knights would have been stuck in with the Bound clones, and the Avatar get into the side of the Hellstone Knights. Hellstone Knights are going to die. Going down to defense 2 with Hellstone Knights, you're just asking to be killed. Yeah, he really traffic jammed himself, and we kind of talked about it after, and he was kind of, as he looked at it in turn 3, he realized I had a way better position than him, and he was just kind of traffic jamming himself. He talked about moving the Ferromancer and the Brute Squad in the middle so that he could support both sides with his Ferromancies. That was a smart play from him, in retrospect. But yeah, overall, it's really just controlling like 3 zones for a couple turns, and then just kind of holding on and slowly giving your opponent stuff while taking things and kind of locking down a side. Because if you can steal 3 zones, you can score 12 points twice, gets you up to 24. And even if you back off and match the same amount of zones with your opponent, they'll never make that score difference back, and you can kind of just start picking apart their things. And that's what I've kind of found works for Melee. So yeah. Thank you for watching or listening or however you enjoy this. BonkTable's got a Discord, we got a podcast, you can find that in the description below. Our last podcast, I believe, was the Podcasters Assemble, where Cassandra and I grabbed a bunch of podcasters on the BonkTable Discord and content creators, and we were like, hey, let's do a big old recording and talk about Conquest in the year of 2023. So it was really fun. I don't know, if you want me to play something specific in 100k, let me know. You can just shoot me a message on Discord, or you can just drop it in the comments. I'll see what I can do. My next couple battle reports are probably going to be me playing this Horse Lord list in preparation for Adepticon. I kind of want to get good, but I also only have so much time to play, so that's kind of why you'll see the same thing out of me for a little bit, is just because I need the practice. So, thank you for watching. Have a great day. Bye.